Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. We are speeding along. Part 2 is today's episode, episode 11 if I've done my maths correctly. And today we are working on the Western Reaches line. The name speeding along doesn't really fit actually. I might change those episode titles and the thumbnails and stuff, because it was meant to be to do with the speed limit sheets, but you don't actually see them during any of these episodes, so it kind of doesn't really make sense. Anyway, GSMI, Guard City St. Michael, is the subject of today's episode. There's a couple of things. First of all, this episode is a week late. I apologise for that. Luckily, I did have the behind the scenes video from a couple of weeks ago that I was able to put out last week instead. Secondly, no maps in today's video. No maps. There may be maps in episode 14, which is currently going to be completing the services out of GSMA, although that could change in the future. The reason being that there's no maps in this episode is I was working on them, and it kind of like the last couple of episodes, episode 10 and episode 8, it was a single line out of a single station, and it worked. The maps worked. They didn't look great, the first lot I did. The second lot I did looked a little bit better, although the Great Western, I kept going on about how the text would be clearer because it's green on white, and it turned out not to be clearer because the green didn't really pop like I thought it would, so I might change that for future episodes. The text colour for this episode was supposed to be yellow, and I didn't even get that far, so I don't know how that would have worked out. George De Silva recommended that I use bold text, and actually that's not the worst idea in the world, so I will be testing new map ideas in the not too distant future. But for this episode, I got as far as loading the screenshot of the whole network into Illustrator, and then I cropped it so that GSMI was on the far eastern side of the map and the two termini were on the far western side of the map. And even then, it was almost impossible to be able to see the three stations, plus all the other stations, to be able to draw the lines. And what I mean by that is the Western Reaches North, which is what this is now referred to as, more on that in a not too distant future episode. The Western Reaches North currently runs between Guard City St. Michael and Sunnington, and also Guard City St. Michael and Plindon Junction, via Moningpool Falls and Wenfingfield Western. That's where the problem comes in, because it's about the same distance between Moningpool Falls and Sunnington as it is between Moningpool Falls and Plindon Junction, which means the map technically has to be twice as high or twice as big in the Y direction as the previous maps have been. Plindon Junction is actually around about level directly west of Guard City St. Michael. So the line would have had to have gone right up north to Moningpool Falls and then south again to Plindon Junction. If it was just Plindon Junction, that would have been fine, because Moningpool Falls would then have been the topmost point of the map, and Plindon Junction and Guard City St. Michael would have been the bottommost points on the map, albeit at the east and west ends. The problem is Sunnington, and Sunnington is probably also the reason why I never did Westwind's maps, because again, it's a long way between Guard City and Sunnington. Sunnington is the most northwestern point on this entire map. So to try and create a map that is twice the height of a normal sized map, plus get all the lines in, plus get all the text in, it became almost unfeasible. So I can make maps for this route still at a bigger scale and upload them to my new website, which I'll be doing in the not too distant future, and then you guys can check it out there. I'm happy to do that, but for it to work in this video would have been unfeasible. So that's why there are no maps in this episode. I will do my best as the episode goes on to tell you which services stop where, because I have got the service schedule open in front of me as I speak. So that's the first thing, and that's one of the reasons why the episode was delayed, was I was trying to figure out what to do with the maps. The other reason the episode was delayed is my work ethos has gone through the floor lately. My motivation levels just aren't really... I mean, they're there, but they're not there, if that makes sense. Like, I want to work, and I want to make videos, and I want to make content. The problem is, at the moment, is I'm technically running 2 channels. And I keep talking about this mysterious other channel and not giving too much away. Hopefully, the end of this week, maybe the start of next week, I'll be able to talk about it a little bit more, because I'm working on an intro video for the second channel. It's not an M4J related channel. I work for it, but I don't. It's not my brand, as it were. Those of you, I mean, it's XVI related. I can talk about that because you guys are aware of XVI by now, I hope. Otherwise, I've not done my job properly. So it's XVI related stuff. I've been putting more and more of my time into that. So there'll be new videos coming out on XVI's channels. Excuse me, choking on air. There'll be more content coming out on the XVI channels in the not too distant future, and I will always retweet it and put it on my Reddit and things like that as well for those of you that want to check it out. I highly recommend that you do. I'm going through a very experimental phase at the moment with both my channel and with the XVI stuff, and there will be some crossover and there will be some overlapping in terms of editing style. So if you like my videos for the content, I strongly suggest you check out XVI. If you like my videos because of the editing style or the technique, definitely check out XVI, because I'm in charge of all the video production for that as well. So M4J has taken a bit of a back seat. I've also been developing new ideas. Cities in Motion 2, for example, I think that series, I might make one more episode just to wrap it up, but I think that series is dead now, to be honest. It wasn't much fun. I was enjoying the game, but I wasn't enjoying the videos. It was one of those series where I needed the viewership to go up. Now, I was really hammering home in that series that I needed the viewership to go up for the series to continue. And I mean, I haven't checked the viewing figures for the last episode in that series. Let me do that now very quickly. I'm kind of making a decision. It's not bad. It's not bad. Maybe with comments disabled it'll be a bit more tolerable. But I have still got plans for a few more episodes. So I'll either make one more episode just to wrap it all up and do as much as I can in that episode, or I'll make a few more episodes just to finish off the series on a high, as it were, or even just to see if the series has legs still. This series I still have big plans for. If you go on the episode plans now, you will see that I've planned up to episode 14, so this episode and the next 3. But in my head, and a separate document, which I will not make publicly visible, I have planned up to about episode 30. So there's a lot going on in this series, and I feel like I've got more creative freedom in this series, especially when it comes to things like timetabling, vehicle spacing, and passenger distribution. Which is something that Cities in Motion 2 doesn't really offer. Like, you can set a timetable start time, but you can't do anything else. Now, I've always found that frustrating about that game. It's actually something that City Skylines almost fixed. They took away the ability to auto timetable, but they added the ability, or at least through a mod, they added the ability to evenly spread vehicles, which is something that Cities in Motion 2 always frustrated me with. Was once vehicles got bunched together, the only way they would get unbunched is if vehicles started returning to the depot, and I didn't really want to do that every single episode. So let's talk about this episode, shall we? So I've just rebuilt the approaches to Guard City St. Michael. I'm not happy with how I did it, actually, because instead of doing slow and fast waypoints like I did with GSP just to the south, I decided to do north and south, and then have the signals into the platforms at GSMI split vehicles according to their top speed. That second bit isn't bad. It's always good to do that, because it always means the slow trains go in the slow platforms and the fast trains go in the fast platforms. The problem arises with the waypointing. I have since amended it so that some signals only let certain trains through, because I ended up with the northernmost track into GSMI had an express train waiting to go into GSMI, and it could only access 1 or 2 platforms on the express side of the station. So it just blocked the lines and stopped some of the slower trains from getting in. Which, considering I basically launched, how many vehicles was it? 71 vehicles I added to the network in this episode, and about 60 of them were all going to GSMI at the same time. Excuse me for clearing my throat all the time. I don't know why. As soon as I started talking, I felt a frog in my throat. Apologies for that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, GSMI. So, having 60 vehicles all arriving at the same time, and I don't know if this is a patch feature that Lieutenant Joker added in, or whether it was just something that has been added to the vanilla game that's then carried over into the patch. But it used to be, if I released all the vehicles at once, they would just release in a random order, which in the old days was bad. Nowadays, I'd actually prefer it if it did that, because it would spread the vehicles out a little bit better. But what it actually does now is it releases them in number order, which I think is a really cool feature, but it just came too late for me, because I end up with like 11 express trains all arriving at GSMI at the same time, and I've only got 5 platforms or something that they can fit in. So that means you've got 6 trains waiting. There's only 6 lines in and out of GSMI on the north side, so the whole thing gets blocked. It's slightly annoying, but after the first cycle of timetabling, it actually sorted itself out quite nicely. We do still get a little bit of blockage with some of the slow trains coming in. The 2 former goods platforms on the very northernmost side of GSMI I've actually converted to passenger use, and that did ease the congestion just a little bit. But it's made me very conscious of the fact that we need more platforms, and it was something that was asked to me actually on my Reddit community, which I now have set up. If you go to, I think it's just reddit.com, let me check, reddit.com/r/M4J_gaming. You will be able to find my Reddit community. So far, I have 2 subscribers. I am one of them. So if you do have a Reddit account, head over there and subscribe to my Reddit. It's got all the links to my social media there as well: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Patreon, and my website. My YouTube schedule is also there. My Twitch schedule is supposed to be there, but isn't, so I'll need to fix that. Plus, any other announcements and things about the channel will all be posted there. It's probably the best place to read an in-depth view of everything M4J, because Twitter only allows you to say so much, for example. That was the self-promotion out of the way. Trains. I suppose we could start talking about trains. Yeah, let's start talking about trains. So, we're going to have 3 types of train operating on this line. We've got the APTs, the Advanced Passenger Train. That is what APT stands for, isn't it? Yeah. I'm trying to remember I think they were the Class 370s. Again, let's do some quick research. Doobie-doo. Doesn't actually have their designation, which is quite annoying. It'll be on Wikipedia somewhere, I'm sure. Oops. Anyway, so we got those. Yeah, 370. Nice. Yeah, the tilting trains, also referred to as the APT-P. So yeah, we got those. They will operate at the top speed of 160 miles per hour. So the top speed on the slow lines is 100 miles an hour. Top speed on the fast lines is 120 miles an hour, unless it's a tilting train, in which case its top speed is 160 miles an hour. Because the top speed of the APTs in the game, I think in real life it was 155, but in the game it's 156. So it's next to no difference, really. So they'll be bombing up and down on the fast lines. I also have a couple of services operating with different stock between GSMI and Sunnington, and GSMI and Plindon, that use the fast lines between Wenfingfield and Morningpool Falls. They are operated by... in fact, you can see one on screen right there, I believe. This is the first service, which is 2W00, Guard City St Michael to Moningpool Falls, calling at GSMI, Corfing Way, Bending Head, Trunley Market Heights, Wenfingfield Western, Lonfingpool West, Gronston, Wardham North, Fredingworth West, and Moningpool Falls. And that is formed of a electric locomotive and I think it's a 5-long train, so that's 10 units minus 2, so it's 8 double-decker carriages and then a double-deck control car. I believe these are part of the German train new GRF. I can't read what locomotive I've got, so you'll have to rewind and pause the video to see the actual designation. It was the oldest on the list, which was developed in 1985, I think it was. I think that's what it said on the vehicle purchasing. The downside to that is the top speed is only 75 miles an hour, so when it runs on the fast line, it does actually get in the way a little bit. But on the slow line, all those vehicles go at the same speed, so it's not a problem. So we have the APTs, we have the double-decker local / suburban / semi-fast services, and then we've also got between Moningpool Falls and Wenfingfield, plus also between Plindham and Sunnington, and I think also between GSMI and Wenfingfield, we have the same electric loco, but instead of double-decker carriages, we have single-decker, I think they're called local transport carriages and control car. The reasoning there is, I imagine, particularly on the coastal route, currently it's not going to be very popular because there aren't many connections that can't be made on faster services. So it made more sense to use smaller carriages. The advantage of that is if the service does begin to rise in popularity, I can quickly refit the train to have express, either express carriages and just speed up the train, or I can add double-decker carriages instead, because the loco that I've chosen is compatible with both double and single-decker carriages, so it's a nice fit. They're the current services. We will in the future go on the Western Reaches south, and at that point I think even on the northern side of things I might upgrade some of the trains to electric multiple units, double-deckers, so the Stadler Kiss and the I can't remember the name of the Dutch one now. It's the yellow Dutch one. I think it's nicknamed the Bison. I can't remember its actual name. That's what I'm tempted to do. The Western Reaches south will most likely use loco hauled services, so it might even be that I will move the loco hauled trains to the southern end of Western Reaches, down at Sanley, and going north from there, and also from Sanley over to the east, along towards Bar City. And then on the northern side, between GSMI, Wenfingfield, Moningpool Falls, actually use that for electric multiple units. I haven't decided yet. Might even do a mix of both. But let me know. You know, Reddit, very good place. Go and start a conversation topic there about what trains you'd like to see me use on the network. There's no such thing as a bad suggestion. Just a bad execution of the suggestion. So bear that in mind. If you really want me to do something, you're going to have to sell it to me. Imagine it like a 30-second elevator pitch, that kind of thing. Oh, that's what I was talking about on Reddit. George Silver was talking to me on there. In fact, let me get the topic up again. It was to do with rebuilding stations and platforms. The idea was also mentioned for a shuttle service again. I'm sure I'd answered this before. I'm not sure if it's the same person that asked it or not, but I definitely answered the question before. Someone said about having like an interchange station. So a good example would be, let's say Woolworth Central on the Great Western Line. Instead of having a service that went from GSP to Gronville West through Woolworth, the suggestion was to have just trains call at Woolworth and then have a shuttle service between Woolworth and Gronville West, let's say, just going backwards and forwards. In reality, good idea. The Stourbridge branch is a good example of that. Also, some of the branch lines on the Great Western route, particularly from Slough and Twyford, I think are the two. The Marlow branch and the Windsor branch, I think are the names. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. In fact, let me just take a quick pause because I've got to read out what the second service is. So the second service you just saw me place was 2M00, which is GSMI to Wenfingfield, calling at Slenston, Corfing Way, Drunston Farms, Bending Head, Trunley Market Heights, Plardston, Trutston Woods, and Wenfingfield Weston, which is also made up of... In fact, I think this one might be 6 in length, that one. It might also be double-decker as well, thinking about it. Branches, yes. I like the idea of the shuttle service system, but in the game, you end up with like 3,000 passengers waiting at a station for a train that can only carry 200 at a time. So, in terms of the game feasibility, it doesn't really work. I'd rather have through services. So, like, if I had a branch line, I'd rather have trains running backwards and forwards between a main station, like a terminus station. So, like on the Great Northern route between Honningville and I've forgotten the name of the place now. Gronwell, I think it is, up in the northeast corner. Instead of having a train run just between an interchange station there and a branch, I'd rather have a train run from Honningville to the terminus, or from Gronwell to the terminus. Forgot the name again. It's not like I built it or anything. I'd rather have that, because then you have a core service on the core of the route that then occasionally branches off. So it means more passengers can take trains from that interchange station, as it were, or take a direct train straight through to their actual destination. I'm sure I answered that question before though, so if you are going to ask a question, do check that it's not been asked before, because one thing I absolutely hate is having to repeat myself because people weren't listening the first time. So please do check that. But any other questions or any other comments, or train suggestions or anything like that, Reddit, start a new thread, put it on there. I get notifications when people start new threads, so I'll be able to answer all questions. The other question in the same thread from George De Silva was about rebuilding stations. And again, those eagle-eyed viewers would have noticed that actually last episode there were, I think it was 3 new stations, plus 2 had been rebuilt, plus 3 or 4 had been moved. And I mean, I direct this at people who have downloaded the map from the end of the Majeffries network, seen where all the stations are, and then asked me about moving stations when it's very obvious in the episodes that stations have moved. There's a new station, the one that I can think of off the top of my head is Taunton Tunnels. So on the Great Western route, just after Runton, there's the very sharp curve between north and west, and originally there it was just one long tunnel. Now you'll see it's 2 separate tunnels split in half, roughly in half, and a new station built between them called Taunton Tunnels, which is mainly used as a waypoint, but there is one service that I can think of that does actually stop there. So that's one that was built from new. A couple of them on the Great Eastern route were moved. There was also, I think, Lendworth Falls, or the station just to the north of Lendworth Falls. That's a new station. That was added in, again, originally as a waypoint, but trains do now also call there. There was another new station on the Great Western route that I can't remember the name of. The Great Northern route has no new stations, but 1 or 2 were moved slightly so that waypoints could be added. And on the Western Reaches... oh, yes, no. On the Great Western, it was sent... Hang on. Let me get the name up. It was Sentfield and Nardinghatton. Originally used to be 2 stations. Sentfield and Nardinghatton were 2 separate stations. Instead, I built one station halfway between the 2 towns, just before the bridge over the water. And that is now Sentfield and Nardinghatton. It's a combined station. I actually prefer that, because the 2 previous stations were way too close together for trains to realistically call it both. So instead of doing one or the other, I just combined them and made it one. And most main services on the slow lines do stop at that station. The Western Reaches, you saw at the beginning of the episode, actually Slenston was rebuilt. Slenston, sorry, forgot the L, was rebuilt. So it's now got 2 through lines on the slow tracks with platforms either side, and then the fast tracks divert or bypass it to the south. Whereas originally there were just 2 platforms on the slow lines and then the fast tracks went through the middle. Not the case anymore. So that's been rebuilt. Morningpool Falls gets rebuilt. You'll see that shortly because I didn't have enough room for all the crossovers on the western side. So I've moved the whole station a couple of tiles to the east. It looks exactly the same because I rebuilt it exactly the same. It's literally just been moved slightly. Wenfing Field was not rebuilt, but some of the approach lines were. So that's changed a little bit. I think George De Silva was asking about the new stations program, which I'd never heard of. Apparently it was an award by the Department for Transport to help build new stations to serve new developments. Or areas which have been cut off by BR. So apparently Ilkeston was one that was chosen. I don't recall that at all. I know there's a spate of new stations being built at the moment. Kenilworth was probably the worst of them all, but there were a few others. Is it Muggle? Sounds like Muggle, but it's I think it's Maghull up in Liverpool on the Muggle North. South? North. I think it was North. On the Merseyrail network. That's new. That opened last year. Kenilworth opened last year. Coventry Arena opened 2 years ago, I think it was. Plus there are other stations that already existed, like Corfe Castle, that have been added to the National Rail list. But you know, Corfe Castle is a very old station. It's on the Swanage Railway, for those of you that don't know. So yeah, George De Silva proposes. I hate that word, by the way, proposes. Like, we're not a council. Just say my idea is, or I suggest. Don't say propose. Like, you're not... I know I said elevator pitch, but, you know, it's not real at the end of the day. It is a game. So, just bear that in mind. But anyway, his proposal, inverted commas, was to do something similar to the new station fund, build some new stations to serve areas next to the existing lines, or build some new towns and connect them to the network by adding a new station. The second one, definitely, there will be new towns built on certain routes, and new stations will be built to serve those towns. The first bit, though, I mean, again, proposal, and then to suggest that I do something similar to the new station fund, that's not how this game works. This game works as if I want to move or build a station, I move or build a station. You know, I don't award funding to a town to build a station. If I really wanted to do role-playing, then yeah, that's exactly what I would do. But in terms of the series, that's not really how I want this series to go right now. Maybe in the future it will move more into that side of things. But yeah, it sounds too political and council-y for my liking. If I want to build a station, I'll just build a station. If someone says to me, have you considered building a station in such and such, I'll look at it, and if I like it, I'll do it. I don't like the whole proposal and funding and all that kind of thing. It just it sounds too Westminster for my liking. But the second bit, building new towns and connecting them with stations, definitely. That is something that will be happening in the not too distant future. I know that the beginning of this series has been a little tedious because it's just rebuilding and redoing stuff that's been done before. But actually, after this episode, I am taking a break from adding these services. So next episode, we're starting something completely new to the series that's not been attempted before. And then episode 13, if episode 12 goes well, otherwise it'll be episode 14 because 12 will be split into 2. I'm actually going to be surveying the map and adding new connections and new lines. And I'll start that episode by talking about my plans for the Western Reaches, because I do have an idea. I've already planned it out, so I'll talk you through it in that episode. But yeah, planning new routes is something that I want to do, because rebuilding old routes to the new specification is actually more difficult than just building a new route to the new specification. Particularly, you wouldn't believe this, but this route, the Western Reaches route, was the hardest to do because I had to rebuild it. Like the Guard City Great Northern, I had as much space as I needed between GSG and forgotten the name of the station now. Parkway, Thingy Parkway. How have I forgotten the name of a whole station? Plint Bridge. Bloody hell. Plint Bridge Parkway. Forgot the... Oh man, my head. It's all over the place at the moment. So yeah, between GSG and Plint Bridge Parkway, I did have to sort of squeeze it between the freight terminal and the water, but I could always add to the water, like reclaim land from the lake, and build as many tracks as I needed up to Plint Bridge. Great Eastern was a little tricky because I had to thread the eye of the needle, but I was always planning on having the slow and the fast separate still, so that worked out okay. The Great Western was actually quite easy because I had a lot of space in that particular area, and even though GSMI is just north of GSP, Slenston was the problem because I had to get the tracks out of GSMI, round the side of whatever town that is directly north of St. Michael, and then round to the west again before Slenston. And I actually found that bit really difficult to do. Even now I'm sort of going back and moving things and rebuilding things because I wanted to build some storage sidings as well. There is still a plot of land that I can use for that, but the original depot site was going to be recycled and used as storage, but because I've now got those extra lines branching off, which again I'll talk about in episode 13, it made it really difficult. I apologise for saying a lot as well. It's when I'm trying to think of what to say. It's a really annoying habit. I'm trying to break it at the moment. But yeah, Slenston was the obstacle. And even once Slenston had been rebuilt, I'm very happy with the rebuild of Slenston. I think it works quite nicely. But the tracks in and out of Slenston were a real nightmare to build. Same with Moddingpool Falls. Actually moving the station was the easy bit. Rebuilding all of the connecting tracks, especially on the eastern side, was very, very difficult. And even as recently as yesterday, so when you're watching this, I'm talking Tuesday because I'm recording this on the Wednesday, but the connecting the lines there on the eastern side of Moddingpool Falls, as recently as yesterday, I still had trains routing down the wrong track because I hadn't noticed that I'd missed one crossover. So that was really, really difficult. Plus the new motive power depot for the Western Reaches line. It's directly north of Moddingpool Falls on the other side of the lake. So you remember Great Eastern, we've got Lakeside Train Care. This time we've got Moddingpool Lake. So Moddingpool Falls is kind of the canal joining the sea. That's the falls. The lake is on the northern side of Moddingpool Falls. And that is where the depot for the Western Reaches is going to be. The main depot. There may be other ones as time goes by, especially down on the Western Reaches south. There will be a new depot down that end of things as well. But that made things difficult because I had to build an eastern and a western approach, and trying to get trains to go the right way sometimes was a little bit tricky. Plus I didn't build the depot very well, so I've had to rebuild it twice since I've actually built it on camera. I think I built it on camera. I hope I built it on camera. But yeah, it got difficult. It got difficult, let's put it that way. So this was the hardest one to do. So again, not having to do the maps actually made my life a little bit easier, because having to just build the route was difficult enough. Having to then map it out would have been even worse. I should also keep you up to date with the latest trains. So the third from the top that you see on the left hand side is... Actually, hang on. Let's go to the top right, because this is what I meant by having trains go east and west out of the depot. So originally, the top right, it's 2R00, and it originally went Wenfingfield Western to Moddingpool Falls. But after I planned it out, I thought actually it would make more sense to start and finish at Moddingpool Falls, because the depot is directly north of it. So now it goes Moddingpool Falls to Wenfingfield Western, calling at Great Dradengston, Slartwood, Fredingworth West, Barnford, Wardham North, Gronston, Safingly, Longfingpool West, Longfingpool East, which is also a new station, and Wenfingfield Western. And that's an all-stopper, essentially. And the frequencies are quite different as well. You can always check out the service schedules for yourself. Link is in the description, and you can look at all these yourself. Then we've got GSMI to Sunnington. That's third from the top on the left-hand side, I believe. That is 2C00, Guard City St Michael to Sunnington, calling at Corfingway, Bending Head, Trunley Market Heights, Wenfingfield Western. Then it runs on the fast lines to Wardham North and Moddingpool Falls. And then it goes Bedtown Mill, Leadingpool Falls, Knotlob, Sunnington, Sunnington, South Oh, hang on, sorry. Sunnington's the terminus, and then it goes into the sidings, the south sidings, which are on the southwestern side of the station. I was so busy reading the thing, I forgot to remember that Sunnington's the terminus. And then we have kind of a mimicking service that runs to Plindon. So it goes GSMI, Corfing Way, Bending Head, Trunley Market Heights, Wenfingfield Western, then runs on the fast lines to Wardham North and Munningpool Falls. And instead of going north to Sunnington, then it goes south to Flewtown, Runton. Runton? I thought that was on the Great Western. I don't know what stations on the Great Western. Great Slillingston-on-Sea, Froningpool Falls, Preybourne, and Plindon Junction. And then it goes into Plindon North sidings, which themselves were a headache to build as well. Then we have... Let's see, are we up to date? I think we're up to date currently, so I'll read out the next one in just a second. But yeah, this whole thing was difficult. Also, that bit of trivia from the last episode where I did the Great Eastern and Great Western, the bit of trivia that I forgot when I was recording that episode was, I always thought, first of all, I thought the Guard City Great Northern route was the one with the most stations, and it's not. The Great Western is, I think. Actually, no, the Great Eastern is. That was the first surprise. The second surprise was, besides Mason Road, I think it's called, or Mason Way, which is the first station out of Guard City St John on the slow lines. Besides Mason Way, the first 5 stations, so the first 5 out of, sorry, the 5 out of the first 6 stations on the Guard City Great Eastern route are major interchanges. So GSJ obviously links with the metro, the trams and the buses. Mason Way doesn't connect with anything but buses, so that's not really I mean, it's an interchange, but it's not an interchange, if that makes sense. Then you've got Brendington Indigo Junction, which is the major interchange between the Great Eastern and the east side of the overground network. Then you've got New Groodingbury, which connects to the HLR. Then you've got Daningpool Bridge, which connects to the Cross City Northern Line. And then you've got Renston, which connects with the Mass Transit and the the Rapid Transit and the Metro and the HLR. So there's a lot of interchanges going on the Great Eastern, whereas the Great Western, I think the first interchange on the Great Western is so you've got GSP, which again connects with the metro, the trams and the buses and something else. I'm sure there's something else. Oh, the boats, that's right. GSJ connects with the boats and the rapid transit. Then you've got Plynston, which does connect with the overground, but because they run side by side, it's kind of like on the London Underground maps. They don't, like, particularly the District and the Piccadilly, where they run alongside each other at the western ends. Not every station is listed as a connection, even though they do connect, if that makes sense. It's only the ones at either end, so that you know that if you have to change train between the District and the Piccadilly, or vice versa, these are the stations where you can do that most. After that station, you won't be able to change. I really explained that badly. I'm so sorry. But yeah, Plynston connects with the overground, but it's the first of a couple of interchanges, so it doesn't really count. Then you've got Little Proningwell, then you've got East Town, and then you do have a series of minor connections with the metro, but it's only Great Winfield where you get to the first big interchange hub, where it connects with the metro, the airport obviously, and buses and trams from Wenfingfield. Likewise with the Great Northern, you do have Plint Bridge Parkway, but then after that, the next major interchange isn't really until you get up to Dontborough, which is where the Capital Line branches off again, and then after that, Punfingford. So, yeah, the Great Eastern is actually more important than I used to give it credit for. Let's put it that way. Right, the next schedule on the Western reaches north. So this is the Plindon Junction to Sunnington route, or service. I think it's an all-stopper. So it starts at Plindon Junction, it then calls at Plindon North, which is another new station. Preybourne, Froningpool Falls, Great Slillingston-on-Sea, Runton, Inverwood, Flewtown, Denpool Bridge, which is another new station, Bedtown Mill, Abelwood Hotel, Lenningpool Falls, Knotlob, and Sunnington. So it is an all-stopper, and that is made up of one of the single-deck carriages. You also see me here build rebuild the approaches to Preyborn, so that the main Western Reaches express trains will actually run through Preyborn on the lower platforms, and not the old system where it was kind of an alternate, so it was one branched off, one went straight on, one branched off, one went straight on. Now it's the two outer tracks that actually branch off towards Plindom, and then the two centre tracks continue straight on. There will be a new junction built just south of where we are at the moment, which will connect the new Western Reaches south line to the current Western Reaches south line. I think I've given the game away a little bit there. You can also see I've rebuilt some of the passing loop sections here. I think there is still one extra passing loop if you're running from north to south, and that's just so that express trains have an extra opportunity to pass, because this section, particularly on the northern section between Moningpool Falls and Sunnington, I have a more room to do 4-track running, whereas here it was a little bit trickier, even though I have built a new 4-track section. So that's something new as well. Any more suggestions for things like that as well, like if there's a double track section that you think should be quadruple tracked, or even just add an extra passing loop track like between Huntington and Peterborough on the East Coast Main Line, let me know. Reddit, again, best place to go. Use my Reddit community, so like I said before, reddit.com/r/m4j_gaming, and it doesn't just have to be for this series. You can also leave suggestions for my other running series as well. Oh, this section here at Sunnington, where the two main lines converge, for some reason, I can't believe I didn't notice this, where the fast west winds line joins the main junction there. I had it so that only 1 or 2 tracks with the right waypoint were actually accessible. So I have now rebuilt that, and I've moved some waypoints around as well. There's a car alarm going off outside my window. I'm sorry if you can hear that. It's really annoying me. I just hope it's not my car. Anyway, yeah, Sunnington. So I had to fix that, and I also made it so that there's signals on the exits for each main line that only lets trains through that are supposed to go through that bit. Because I was just watching trains at Moningpool Falls at one point, and an HST pulled in, which really threw me off guard, because HSTs aren't supposed to go through Moningpool Falls. So I did some investigating, and it was because of this waypoint issue at Sunnington. How it had only just been highlighted, I'm not really sure, but trains, because HSTs have been running on that route since almost the beginning of the series, so I'm not really sure how that escaped me, but it did. Or I just don't know what happened when I was putting these trains in that allowed an HST to suddenly be on the wrong track. Maybe because there was more trains, there was less paths for the train to take, so it took a slightly different one and ended up in the wrong place. I don't know. What I do know, though, is it was very annoying. So I have rebuilt that a little bit more now, and it should work a little bit better in the future. So there are 3 more services that are getting added in this episode. I should have checked how long this episode was going to be before I started talking, because my voice is starting to hurt. I'm using my voice a lot lately for lots of different projects, so my voice is starting to go a little bit. I'm probably doing quite a lot of damage as well, so I'm going to have to take it a bit easy. So some episodes in the future might just be me doing a quick 10-minute introduction or 5-minute introduction, and then it'll be a time lapse with music. Some episodes might even be live builds, and then I stop talking partway through and just build for a bit and then start talking again. Hopefully you guys are all on board with that. But I'll talk you through the last 3 services of this episode, and then I'll stop talking and just let music take over, because I need to rest my voice. So the first express service is 1W00, and that is between Guard City St Michael and Sunnington, calling at Wenfingfield Western, Moningpool Falls and Sunnington. The second express service is between Guard City St Michael and Plindom Junction, calling at Wenfingfield Western, Moningpool Falls, Flewtown, Preyborn and Plindom Junction. And the third express service is between Guard City St Michael and Sunnington, except this service calls at Bendinghead, Wenthingfield Western, Wardham North, Moningpool Falls, Bedtown Mill, and then Sunnington. So it's kind of an extension of the original Sunnington service, but stops at additional stations. That's mainly inspired by some of Virgin West Coast stopping patterns. You get, like particularly between Euston and Glasgow, you get trains that call at additional stops all along the way. So I wanted to try and replicate that. So I think I've done that. But yeah, all these trains that you've seen me put on the episode today, they're all serviced at Moningpool Lake Train Care, which has been rebuilt from what you saw me build at the start of the episode. So next episode I might even start by just showing you that as well, because we are starting at Moningpool Falls next episode, so it makes sense to actually show you that and then actually go into the episode. But I'm going to let the music take over now. I don't think I'll be back before the end of the episode, so I will start wrapping things up here. Thank you very much everyone for watching. Sorry that it took 2 weeks to get this episode out. When we do GSMA, I might just do separate maps, might even do it in separate episodes. One for the sort of overground bit through Shoreham Junction, and the other bit for the bit through New Reddington. I forgot the name of that station then as well. That heads off to the east. I might do them as separate episodes, just so I don't have to make all the maps at once. I might even split them between several episodes. I don't know yet, but we'll see about that. We'll see. But yeah, sorry this one took 2 weeks to get out. Hopefully the wait was worth it. I did at least have something for last week, which was kind of a happy accident. I also know from episode 8, I think it was, someone asked me for a signal tutorial. So I'm thinking between now and next week to make an episode 11.5, because I had to do a lot of re-signaling for this episode. So I'll show you how I did that in a bonus episode, 11.5. So hopefully the guy who asked for the signaling tutorial, I can't show you all the tricks of the game because I don't know them all myself. What I can show you is how I signal my routes, so that only the right train can actually go through. And hopefully that's what you wanted. If it's not, let me know, and I'll see if I can do an additional video in the future to actually answer the question a little bit better. But yeah, thank you very much guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you enjoyed the series. I'm really keen to get the like count up again, because it has dropped considerably since I stopped mentioning it. For example, last episode was 111 views and only 4 likes. The episode before that was 71 views and 8 likes. Before that, 85 views, 6 likes. Before that, 185 views, which is awesome by the way, and 8 likes. So you can see what I mean by the like count has gone down significantly since Christmas, which is when I stopped talking about it all the time. So we need to get that up. Would like to get the view count up as well. Episode 3, for example, 302 views, 24 likes. That's 20 likes and something like 300 views is my target for each episode at the moment. So I need your help to hit that target. So please do share the video. I'll be sharing it on my Reddit community. I'll also be sharing it on the OpenTTD Reddit community. You can share it on there as well, but be mindful that it might look a little bit spammy if we all share it at the same time. So maybe I'll leave it a day or two and share it, so I'll let you guys share it on the day. We'll come to some sort of synergy, I'm sure. But let's get the view count up, let's get the like count up. This year is the year that I need to hit 1,000 subs, otherwise, well, I need to hit a lot of different targets. That's just one of them, otherwise the future of the channel could potentially be at stake. Like I said at the end of last year, I am now graduated, so I need to be looking at full-time employment. I'd like this to be part of it, but if it really isn't working, then I will have to sort of nip it in the bud and try something different. So thank you in advance to anyone who does help. It really is appreciated. It's nice to know that the channel's wanted as well. It's one of those things. So yeah, thank you very much, like I said, for watching. Thank you for those who do like the content and do share it. It really does mean a lot. It doesn't take much. I know the Twitter feature is something that YouTube don't really support anymore, but the other features are still there. You can share it on other social media. It's very easy to do so, particularly on Reddit, because you just copy the link and it even names the post for you. It's very clever. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It's also very important that we get the sub count up in the next couple of months. I'd like to have 1,000 subs by the end of March, maybe April, which I know is a lot because I'm asking for like 60 odd subs in the next month or so. But if we all share it, it only takes 60 people to subscribe, and I get my status back on YouTube, which is a big deal to me. So thank you again in advance for anyone who helps do that. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for continued support. Like I've said, very much appreciated. It does mean a lot to me. But yeah, enjoy the music, enjoy the time-lapse. Any more questions that you have in the chat, because I'll be premiering this, please feel free to ask. I'll be in the chat still at this point, I'm sure, answering all your questions. So do take the opportunity to ask questions live in the chat, because once the chat is finished and deactivated when the premiere ends, the only other place you'll be able to ask questions is on Reddit, because the comments are still disabled. So yeah, enjoy the music, enjoy the time lapse, enjoy the chat, and until next time, I will see you soon.